Is the mic on? Episode 88, What's Wrong with Orny Adams? My guest today is Adam Carolla.
It was just coffee. And now we fucking upped our coffee game, right? Everything's like, oh, it's Somalia, Sumatra, and whatever, the fucking African roast, and it's a deep dark, and it's a French roast, and it's got the tall grande thing with the light foam. Then everyone's got their own fucking take on coffee. They can't just order coffee anymore. Starbucks should have two lines. It should have one line that just says normal people who want fucking coffee, and then the other one should be like prima donna douchebags who don't think other people were born.
It's great.
Who don't think other people want to get to work.
Yeah, it's great.
It's always weird because that's not a bit. That's just someone shouting out coffee at some show.
It's great.
4 years ago. And then, so I listened to it and I'm like, I wonder what I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's on your YouTube channel.
It is.
Yeah, and so, but what I like about it and what makes a bit great to me is when there's an observation and then resolution. So
Yeah.
observation, you say something funny, then resolution. And the resolution is we need two lines.
Oh, I absolutely need two lines. And also, yeah, so it's funny because it's not a bit. It's just somebody shouting something out, but it turns into a bit, but I've never repeated that. But what I'm saying is you get behind the dude who's making the run for everyone in his office.
Right.
And every chick's got her own take on her own drink. And you pull in the line and you go, oh, there's just one dude in front of me. This is going to be easy.
Right.
But he's got 45 drink orders to get through. Yes, we need an express line.
Yeah, in the old days, it was all written on a piece of paper. So you go, oh, shit, the guy in front of me has a piece of paper.
Right.
Now it's on the phone.
It's on his phone.
And you can't, so you used to be able to look over their shoulder and say, oh, there's 10.
Yes.
Where are we in the list?
Yeah, I'm behind Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And he's got a naughty and nice list.
Yeah.
And it's for everyone in the office. Yes, I agree. We need, for all things, sort of normal. Like, I haven't been in a million years, but you ever pull up to an ATM like back in the day and you're behind somebody and you're getting into like minute number 8 and you're like, what the, are they opening an offshore account?
Right.
You get $40 and then you fucking leave.
Right. It's an express situation.
What is going on up there that I don't know about?
Yeah.
I thought you give the card, you get $60 and you leave. It's a minute and 18 seconds. We're on minute 40 with you.
And how many things can you do at an ATM? It's very limited, right? You can deposit a check or two.
I have no idea.
You can.
I've done this. You ever do this? First off, it happens at the airport all the time.
Yeah.
You go in and you're like, I'm going to check this bag and I'm going to walk to the terminal.
Yep.
And there's somebody in front of you, and at some point they're on minute 21, and you're like, I don't know what's going on with this person, but they need to be pulled out.
Do you ever leapfrog? It's a bold move when somebody is next to push it through the tunnel and they're taking too much time, like they didn't preemptively move stuff around.
I'm talking about before security.
Okay.
I'm talking about they're checking in.
Yes.
And something is amiss.
Right.
Your interaction's going to be simple. Hand them the bag, get the tag, show them your ID, turn around and leave.
Right.
They're on minute 19.
Yeah.
So something is going on. Right. Lost luggage. We got a Home Alone situation. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. But what I'm saying is once you get to 15 minutes in to what should be a 90-second interaction, you need to step out.
Mm-hmm.
You need to step. It's the guy in front of you who's arguing with the guy at the parking garage because he lost his ticket and he doesn't. Pull over.
Right. And there's
move over.
Right.
With the regular people just want a coffee, just want to check a bag. Just at the ATM, we have a 90-second interaction here. You're on minute 13. Pull it over.
Right.
And whoever's manning the desk or the kiosk or the luggage or whatever, they need to just say the person who's having a lot of difficulty, just literally step over here for a minute because we have regular
people that know the system and know how to do it.
You know what the other one drives me insane?
But there also should be sort of a priority for when your plane is taken off. This person that's there for 20 minutes, there's no rush. They missed their connection and they're going to get on the next plane in 6 hours. Let's get these other people through.
The worst is you wait in line and you're like at the UPS store, the hardware store, like whatever the store, and you're doing your thing. You finally make it up to the front, and you're like, yeah, I need these circuit breakers, or I need to send this package. And the phone rings, and the person picks up the phone. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm not sure. Let me check on poster tubes. Let's see if we have those in stock. And and then the guy walked. It's like that person just called. That person is in their bathrobe.
Right.
That person is undressed at home. High.
Yeah.
I came here.
Right.
I waited in line, and you just picked up the phone, and now you're going to do this guy's bidding.
But this also happens if you take a place like a Home Depot. Sometimes I have somebody working with me trying to help me, and then somebody interrupts with what they think is a quick question. Hey, just quickly, where are the lug something? I don't know.
Lug nuts at Home Depot. Get the fuck out of here!
I stopped myself. Where's the spackle?
I finished yourself.
Where's the spackle?
Okay.
Yeah, where's the spackle?
That's something that could be there.
And this person now, nobody that works at these Home Depot and Lowe's knows anything about construction. Suddenly, I know more than them.
Oh my God!
And so it's 16-year-olds who look on their iPhone where where the item is, and so now this person. So I have to say, excuse me, but this person's helping me.
Yeah.
Wait your turn.
Oh, listen, I go into Home Depots. I've logged 10,000 hours in a Home Depot over my life.
Of course.
Easily. And I do a lot of like where I'll go like, what aisle are your joist hangers in, or what aisle are your Tico clips in, or what aisle's your Simpson straps?
Lug nuts. Yeah, they carry lug nuts now.
They do. They actually have a small automotive
Why
section.
not?
Yeah.
I mean, they have home cleaning supplies
those
now.
guys will go like, I don't think we have joist hangers. I'll go, you have them.
Yeah.
I'm asking what aisle. And they're like, I don't. And I go, fuck it, I'll go find it. And then I go find the joist hangers.
Yeah. They don't care. Like I went to customer service because I needed fertilizer. I've some sago palms that aren't doing well. So the fertilizer has always been in the outdoor section in this corner. It's now moved. So first I go up and I interrupt 3 kids. I think they're on TikTok.
Right.
And I've now interrupted them not doing their job. They have no clue, nor do they care to help me. Nobody comes from behind the counter and says, let me show you. They don't call anybody. They could care less. They just say it's out there.
Riddle me this, Orny.
Sure.
I'm endlessly fascinated by this. As you know, I've just purchased a new automobile. And so I was looking around at different cars, and I went into a Genesis dealer, and a young woman is working there, 23, 26, attractive. And I come walking in and I say, I'm looking for the all-electric SUV. You guys have an all-electric SUV I've heard about. And she goes, yeah, it's right here. We're in a small showroom with just one car in it. And I'm like, oh, wow, it's so much bigger than I thought. I saw some pictures online. It looked a little, I thought it might be too small for me, but this is big and lovely and luxurious. And she goes, well, here it is. You're looking at it. I go, so this is a just plug-in electric, all-electric SUV. This is what you got here, right? And she goes, yep, that's it. And I go, whoa, it's beautiful. And then she goes, oh, no, wait, that's the G80. Sorry. Yeah, no, the G70's out in the lot. This is the gas-powered one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, of course it is, because it's so big and so beautiful.
And it had exhaust pipes.
And secondly, your desk is 4 feet from this vehicle, and this is where you sit all day.
Right.
You've not sussed this out.
Right.
But here's the riddle.
And by the way, before the riddle comes, if you went back a week later and asked the woman the exact same question, I guarantee you get the same answer.
Yes. Which is insane, because as you start saying, like, well, what's the range on the SUV, the all-electric one? Or how long does it take to charge? It's like, let me check on that. You know, everything's like, let me check. Nobody knows anything anymore. Now, here's the deal. 2 days later, I'm in Ojai at a farmer's market. And I'm walking through it, and I see some olive oil. And I talked to the middle-aged lesbian who is selling the $14 bottle of olive oil. She knows much more about her product.
Of course.
She gives me a 20-minute dissertation on cold pressing and not have the type of olives and where they were imported, what part of Italy they're imported from. That's $14. The Genesis is $71,000.
Right.
the olive oil lady knows a shit ton more about her product
So
than the $71,000 product.
So she should work for Genesis.
She should
That's
work
what you're
for
saying.
Genesis.
You know what
100%.
I love about you is in the description was the lesbian woman. Now, why is that pertinent to the story?
You just showed me your home, right?
Yeah.
Exquisite detail.
Yes.
And a lot of radius corners and
Yeah.
things that I love.
Yeah. It's a fun
I
home,
mentioned
isn't
the
it?
guy who sold it, you bought it from, was gay, right?
I don't know for sure, but
Most likely.
okay, that's yours.
I'm going with the lavender color choice in the banquette over
Mm-hmm.
there. Anyway, point is I need to profile everybody
Okay.
all the time.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Okay.
And this middle-aged lady and her business partner
Yeah.
standing next to it in Ojai. It's a judgment-free zone
Yeah.
there. I'm not
sure.
judging.
No, of course.
I would actually prefer to buy olive oil from a lesbian.
Right, of course. You
I
probably
assume
prefer to
they
buy
know-
everything from
They
them.
know more
Yeah.
about it
Yeah.
than the straight chick.
That's what I love about farmers market is the passion behind what they
passion.
do, which is what's lacking. That's what. Now you have kids, right? And they're
Yes.
they're young. They're under 20.
Yes.
Do they have work ethic?
No.
Why is that? What's going on? Not with your kids, but in general.
Well, there's a couple things going on with this generation, as we would say. Not interested in getting their driver's license, which is unthinkable to
Yeah.
every old person I talk to.
How do they get around?
Their parents, Uber, friends or whatever. Just
Yeah.
a general lack of interest in getting a driver's license.
Okay.
It's insane. As far as the work ethic goes, I mean, I have this argument / discussion with everyone all the time, which is I'm like, I want my son to work at McDonald's. And they go,
Right.
"What? Your son shouldn't be working. What's he need to work?" And I'm like, he
Yeah.
needs to learn how to work. That's
Right.
why he doesn't need to learn how to sear frozen patties
Right.
for a skill or shoot secret sauce out of a caulking gun. That's not a skill. He just needs to learn. First off, he needs to learn what he doesn't want to do,
Right.
which is stand behind a grill. So there's something.
But why don't they understand what I think you and I understand is there is nothing more gratifying than working a full day, getting a check, and then using that check to buy something. Why don't they see that? Why don't they understand that it would make their souls feel better? That's what I'm having trouble understanding.
We're having difficulty as a nation in doing things that are satisfying versus doing things that sort of feel good.
Right.
Like everyone's like, oh, I'll just get on that Ozempic and then I won't have to diet and exercise and stuff or whatever drug they're going on. And I go, you don't get it. Diet and exercise is good for your head. You know what I
Right.
mean? And they go,
Yeah.
well, why should I go sweat when I can just take
Yeah.
a pill? And I keep telling them, you don't understand where this is leading.
Yeah.
For you, the diet and exercise is a discipline. It's something that needs to be a part of your life. It's
Right.
important to you thriving.
Right.
Successful people engage in it, and they're like, I'm taking the pill. They don't get how that works.
We're very similar because I've always hated shortcuts. Like when I was a kid, I loved collecting baseball cards, and I would buy 7 packs, 15 cents. It was $1.05. I had a paper route. I'd take my money. I'd buy the base, and I'd try and I got to get Jim Rice. I got to get this person.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my high school, all of a sudden they would sell the entire package. You could buy every baseball card that year without having to collect it or do the work. And the rich kids bought the full pack of baseball cards, and I never understood it because part of the fun was unraveling or opening them up and getting the shitty gum. Did you ever collect baseball cards?
No.
Yeah. So I mean, there's this sort of like through the years I've seen people stopped caring about the process and growing from the process. Every single job I've had, I've learned something from. And there's, whether it was golf, I was a caddy, and you would, if somebody hit the grass goes flying up, you have to replace the divot.
Yeah.
You have to replace the problem you caused.
Right.
And you learn something. And this is lost, I think, on this generation.
Agreed. And they have no idea what they're doing, sort of micro and macro. You know, when we go, you know, these people need to be taken care of by the government because they don't have the chance to whatever. It's like you are screwing them up, idiots. You have no idea what you're doing to generations of people.
So how do you handle this as a parent? Is it just painful? Is it frustrating? Is it...
I'm sort of philosophical about it, which is like, this is the new world order.
Yeah.
I'll try to, you know, implement some wisdom when I can. And basically what I do with my kids is I just go, I'm doing this by example. I say to them, like, I am going to work today, or, you know, can we go to the whatever? You know, my daughter just said, like, I want to fly first class to Miami. I said, I don't fly first class when I'm working.
Yeah.
You know, half truth. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But the point is I just told her, I don't fly first class. I'm going to work. You know, she'll go like, you know, like, can you, you know, take me to whatever on Thursday? And I go, no, I have to work. So I can provide for you guys. So I'm not going to be here.
Have they shown any interest in your work or what you do? Do they go to your studio? Do they observe you?
My daughter, not so much. My son has some interest in maybe talking. He's sort of emphasis on sports. He likes sports and stats and data and that kind of stuff. And look, has a sense of humor and has comedians he likes, not me, but other folks. And there's some passing interest in you know, communicating for a living.
Okay. This is something that drives me nuts, and I bet it drives you nuts too. When I go out to eat, I look around the restaurant and I see everybody on their phones.
Yes.
Out to eat, dates, first dates, married people, and you look over and there's just two people on their phones.
Yes.
And the other night, I went to a Mexican restaurant, and the table right next to it was so distracting that it ruined our meal. Was a mother and a young child that was probably 5 or 6 years old. And the mother was on the phone the entire time, and the kid had nothing. And the kid's looking at us like, adopt me.
Right.
Like, save me.
Yes.
And the mother's not looking, like, if you see me on my phone, I'm not on TikTok. I'm not looking at other people's content. I'm reading things to enrich my mind. Now, I'm not like altruistic or that great, but I wouldn't sit there with somebody else. Like, when I look at dates, I've seen dates where, like, one of them is on a dating app. And this is what I've come to realize, like with this mother yesterday, this is the new latchkey kid.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about this on my podcast, that you're growing up with a kind of an absentee parent, you know, who's physically there, but mentally not there. So a couple things. So I've said this to people. I was just talking about this. Like, if you and I went out to dinner and we just sat down and you started pontificating, and I just pulled out a book, just put it in front of my face, and or the sports page, and just fluffed it up in front of me, and just started reading the box scores and stuff. You'd be pissed off, insulted, and rightfully so.
Yes.
What is the difference between hard copy, you know, hardbound copy of Moby Dick and me staring at my phone?
Yeah, you got to do that. The next time somebody pulls out their phone, just pull out Moby Dick.
It's insulting.
It is insulting.
And, okay, there's a couple things. People think they can multitask, especially women. Women think I can read about what's going on with Cardi B and her ass and listen to your story.
Right.
No, you can't. But people do have an insane ability to parrot back the last 5 words somebody said.
Interesting. It's exactly 5?
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I love it because I think you're right.
It's
probably
a syllable count, really.
Okay.
You know, ands and does and ifs, you know, might be 7 words. But what I'm saying is, I've said to people, if you got in a horrific motorcycle accident and were just strewn out on the highway and, you know, concussed and bleeding from your ear, and the paramedic leaned over you, you would be able to parrot back his last 5 words.
Interesting.
You would.
Yeah.
We have this ability. And so what people, the way they get out of trouble is they're staring at their phone, and then you go, hey, I need you to listen to me. And they go, yeah, Starbucks, 2 lines, better world. Yeah,
Right.
I got it.
Yeah.
I heard you. But we're able to, it's like we have a playback tape that's good for 12 seconds in our head that we can always, so they always think they defeat you by parroting back the last 5 words you said that they didn't listen to or react to, but it's up on the drive.
Right. Which is what I wanted to talk about today, because we were having this discussion yesterday privately about listening skills. And this is something that you believe you have to train like a muscle.
Absolutely.
And I was shocked to learn that you had done the groundlings. At what point in your career did you do the groundlings?
At the very beginning. I mean, it wasn't in my career. I didn't have a career. I just showed up and took groundlings classes.
That to me is so surprising, because to me you seem like a guy that's just going to do it your way, and I don't need the structure. Nobody can teach me. Am I incorrect with that thinking?
Well, you're correct and incorrect. When I started exploring comedy, I was like 21, 22, and I was like, you got a dead-end construction job, and you drive a beater pickup truck, and, you're not really material. You're not going to be a lawyer. You're not going to be a doctor. You can't work in an office. You can't spell. You can barely read. You know what I mean? You've got barely a high school education. There is no white-collar
You didn't go to
outlet for
college.
you. No. Okay. So I didn't have any. I was a horrible student. I had no white collar avenue, and I also sort of went like, I don't think you're gonna make it in this sort of professional world. You're not gonna be able to put a suit on and show up to an office every day and navigate that. It's just never gonna.
Were your
work.
parents professional in that sense?
My family was kind of limited and weird with their work. My mom was just welfare and food stamps. My dad was like kind of a part-time teacher, was like substitute school teacher at some point, and then got a job working at an orphanage as a like teacher, director of education, a place called 5 Acres is in Altadena, an orphanage essentially. So nobody made any money, and people did college later on in life, like in their 40s and 50s, and it was a weird mishmash of sort of intellectual white trash. You know, they were sort of intellectual, but they also lived in kind of squalor and didn't have things, and everyone's car was a beater. And
would they read the paper and discuss current events? Was that part of the culture?
They didn't discuss. My family wasn't conversational. We didn't talk. I didn't talk to my parents. My dad's idea of a fun Saturday would just sit on the sofa and read a book.
Okay.
And my idea of a fun Saturday would be outside wrestling with some kid on the lawn. And he didn't care for sports or cars or building or tools and wrestling, and I wanted to just go find a roof and jump off it into a swimming pool. That was my idea, and his idea was hang out and read a book.
Okay.
So we didn't share a lot of interests, and my family wasn't very magnanimous. There wasn't like, well, I don't like football, but the boy likes football, so I'm going to go support him. Okay. It was like, good, he likes football. That takes place outside of this house, so go do it.
Okay.
And see if the coach will pick you up before the game and drop you off.
Okay.
And so I didn't really interact with my family.
Huh. Interesting. And yet you still found this drive to get out there and do these things. And I guess I'm sort of stuck on the fact that you come from a family that doesn't communicate, but this is what you do for a living. Like, I find it fascinating, and I should have said this early on. I'm in awe of your talent as a broadcaster. I really am, and I wouldn't say that. But listening to you when you covered for Howard Stern when he went off the air, and listening to you on different shows, you're just so good at it. And that was the impetus for this discussion that we had yesterday about your listening skills, because in order to be an incredible interviewer, you have to be able to listen, take it in, and respond. And that goes back to your groundlings, where they taught you how to do that. And it was something that you work on with a muscle, as like a muscle. And I said to you yesterday, I said, how are my listening skills? And you're like, okay, good. better than average or whatever. And I was actually shocked. I thought I was going to come in B plus A minus.
I had you at a C plus B.
There's no way. First of all, C plus B minus. But there's
Sorry. Yeah.
there's no
See,
way.
I told you that was a bad
Yeah, I don't
story.
mean to correct you, the unschooled.
Yeah.
But now it's not that you didn't go to college. You're unschooled.
Oh, unschooled.
You're unschooled. I
Yeah.
just decided. Yeah, I think that I think I have really good listening skills. What can I do to work on my listening skills?
Well, interviewing is really listening.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with comedians in the interviewing process is they're trying to load jokes instead of listening.
Right.
It's really hard to be in the process of loading a joke in your head and fully listening to what the person is saying.
Right.
Much like reading the story about Cardi B and listening to me complain about
Right.
Starbucks. It's
Right.
you can hear bits and pieces of me in my Starbucks conversation, but you don't get the full 100%.
But doesn't your mind
ingestion
do
of
that
it.
too? Because we talked about this yesterday. When I do your podcast, we go off in all these different tangents where you'll say something and I'll think, like, this is why I get exhausted doing this. I'm thinking, don't interrupt Adam now. Bring that up later if it comes up. He's on a roll. Don't break his rhythm. But try and come back to that thought, that avenue, that tangent. And that's when I get exhausted. But I feel like I'm good at listening. Like I'm taking in most of this.
You're better than most, is what I would say. But what I would also say is it's people think it's just a thing, like height or the color of your eyes. It isn't. It's just a tangible skill, a muscle that needs to be exercised. I was no good at it when I started.
Okay.
I don't feel like I became a good interviewer until like year 15 of broadcasting.
And when did you start?
I started broadcasting regularly on Loveline when I was 32 or something like that. And I don't think I became a good interviewer until I was like in my mid 40s.
And were you doing your podcast at that point?
No, I was just doing terrestrial radio.
Which your skills so good. You're so interesting. You can go off on any topic. I mean, it's enjoyable. It really is. But like, help me to understand so I can become better.
Well,
so when you're talking, you're telling the story about how you come from a family that doesn't really communicate. And in my head, I think, well, that's weird. Like, I want to say, well, that's weird because that's how you make a living is communicating. And you're so good at it, but I don't do it. I stop myself, but I'm slightly derailed from your words in the story you're telling. What am I supposed to do?
I mean, it's not really an intellectual process, it's more just sort of reps. You will find, and I have found this personally with myself, less is always more in the interview department. If you go back and listen to your tapes of interviewing somebody, I would do it with myself. I would wince because I'd go, oh, I didn't even let the person finish their thought. I jumped in with a joke or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think there's an element of interviewing which is sort of, you have to be magnanimous, which is, this is about them. It's not about me and how funny I can be or interesting or witty, I can be. The thing about interviewing is tons of reps, and then make it about the other person, and then and then ask questions that are completely organic. I mean, the worst interviewers have the list of this thing, and then they go, they're interviewing, this person, and then the person goes, shortly after my son died, I thought about suicide. And then they go, oh, okay. And what was it like working with Harrison Ford?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this person just said something.
Right.
Son died. Okay, we need to explore this, not move on to the next thing that's on my list of questions.
Okay.
But you don't have a list, so you're fine.
No, but I have thoughts coming into this because you started your podcast in what, 2008?
9.
2000. And what was the landscape like then? Because you had, according to Guinness Book of World Records, the most downloaded podcast of all time. How does this happen?
I had a terrestrial radio job for a million years, and then they flipped the format, and then I got sort of cast out. And I wanted to continue communicating with the people that listened to me. It wasn't really a business endeavor. It was just, I realized, being such a fan of talk radio, that when somebody went off the air, there's a sense of loss with the audience. Now, when like Friends stops doing, when they stop an episode, season 8 or whatever they stop, you go, oh, I like that show. I kind of miss that show. But you don't have this feeling of a bond, a connection, something being broken, versus a voice that you connected with. Because people drive alone at night and listen to the radio, and you really penetrate their skull, So I was like, I'll just keep doing this podcast for an hour a day. And if the people, I just said before I signed off, I said, look, most of you don't give a shit. Most of you are not going to follow. But if you're out there and you're listening and you feel like there's a connection and you want to continue this relationship, then starting Monday, I'll be podcasting. And that's how it broke down. Now,
were you one of the first?
Yeah, I was amongst the earlier adopters of podcasting. I took going back to the groundlings, I realized that while I was naturally funny, I had no skill. I had never been on stage. I didn't know the mechanics of performing, of being in front of an audience, or even the sort of physicality of it, like stage left, upstage, downstage.
Yeah.
I'd never been on a stage.
And
So
when did you start doing stand-up? Because that's how I found that coffee clip. I was trying to find stand-up clips of yours, and the earliest I found was you at Just for Laughs. And it felt like you've really evolved as a stand-up since then.
yes, I was no good when I started. But as if everybody sort of no good when they start anything.
But they usually start as a no-name, completely under the radar.
Right.
And put in the time. So, I started when I was in my early 20s in college. Nobody knew me, and I could develop.
Yes.
Whereas you were already a name, right, when you started doing stand-up?
Well, I started doing like open mics when I was like 22, 23 or something. And I was like quickly like, this isn't really your arena.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't good at it. I wasn't comfortable with it. And I just deemed myself not good at it.
Okay.
And so then I said, well, I'll focus on sketch and group improv.
Right.
So then I started focusing on that, and I never really went back to stand-up. And then that gave way to radio and TV and all sorts of other stuff. And I always kind of had in the back of my head, like, I think if I worked at stand-up, I could be good at stand-up, but I'm just not working at it. I'm doing too many other productions and shows, and I didn't need to do it financially, and there's just no reason for me to do it other than like a little bit of a vanity project. Like, I think I could do this if I put in the time. So at this ripe old age now, I'm finally kind of getting my legs as a stand-up, which is weird because it's so far down the line.
And what I love about it, which I think is fascinating as somebody, so me as a stand-up, I knew from a young age I was going to be a stand-up. I started in high school reading books about comedians, and I would read Woody Allen's books. I would read then Who Influenced Woody Allen, which was S.J. Perlman and Benchley. And then I'd read Who Influenced Them. My dad said, hey, if you like somebody, find out where they started and work backwards. And I was checking books out from the Boston Public Library that hadn't been checked out since 1910. I mean, I was reading Oscar Wilde, who influenced
Wow.
him, and I studied it, and I would write down on pieces of paper, I'd break it down, what made it funny, what Woody Allen was doing, that, how he wrote The Hook and all that sort of stuff. So I knew, and I studied it, and I have such respect. It's probably what frustrates me most about stand-up comedy is there are so many imposters. There's so many people that are just coming out, they're just saying something funny about coffee and observation, they're being loud, they're using a voice, they're using a gesture, and then the bit ends, whereas there's no resolution. But what I love about you is you really respect stand-up comedy in the process, right? And you're curious. When you've had me on, you've been curious. And I can tell by who you like that you understand what's real and what isn't. Why do you think that is?
I think for me, I had a sense of humor like people have a singing voice or they're athletic or something like that. And I was just had it. Like it was just sort of bequeathed to me at birth. Now, I had no training, but later on, I sort of became a student. Like I had the ability, the sense of humor, and then I studied. Like I trained, and then I really thought about like what is funny, how do you break it down. It's not good enough just to sort of combine words and say something that has a funny rhythm to it or a funny sound to it. There has to be a resolution. There has to be something that comes from this.
Yeah.
It can't just be a joke that's kind of floating around on its own.
Are you able to articulate, because you are naturally funny, and that's like when I would listen to you on the radio, I'm like, how is he coming up with all this stuff? In fact, on your podcast, I don't know how you do it several times a week. It must be exhausting. It must be to mine that much information.
No, see, I had the blessing of 10 years of manual labor, like a decade plus of literally digging ditches and, scraping asphalt shingles off of roofs and stuff like that, with the dream of going indoors with some air conditioning and sharing ideas. I'd work all day, and then at lunch, you'd sit on a pile of drywall, eat a burrito, and talk.
And were you the funny guy on the site?
Yeah, and that was the best part of the day.
Yeah.
So the notion of doing a podcast or doing stand-up or doing some corporate gig or somebody goes, someone wants to give you some money and a microphone, stand here. That to me is like, oh, I get to do the thing I've been wanting to do the whole time I was on the roof, was come down, sit in the shade, eat a burrito, and pontificate.
Which comes back to like your kids, the fact that you have such respect for work and the ethic, and you understand how lucky we are to make a living from this. I think that's important. I shouldn't single out your kids. I'm saying this generation. I have a line on stage about how marriage is work. It's work. You ask any married couple, what's it like to be married? They go, it's work. It's work. And then I look at some kids. I go, is that what you want? Work? And then I look at young people and go, from what I can tell, your generation doesn't want to work at all.
Right.
They don't, but you understand. Like I went to a college where every kid had a brand new BMW. It was that 325i. They all had that. I had a 1983 Toyota Celica that I earned by having a paper route, by having working as a caddy. I worked at a mental hospital as a security guard. And I loved that car and respected that car more than they ever could. And to buy your first car is such a beautiful thing. And I don't understand why this generation doesn't get that.
We're in a time where you and I and many others, everyone who came before us, learned very valuable lessons because we didn't have a choice. And so you would work on a farm, you learned very valuable lessons, but you had to get up, you had to chop wood, you had to slop the hogs, you had to kill the chickens and cook it. Everybody had something to do, or you would die. I mean, you
Yeah.
had to stock up enough wood to get you through the
Yeah.
winter, or you would
Right.
freeze to death, right?
Right.
So you go, well, those people are hardy stock and they have a great work ethic and they have whatever. It's like saying, oh, this guy fell off the back of a cruise ship. Boy, is he a good swimmer. Boy, is he get a lot of exercise. It's like, no, he was trying to survive.
Right.
So now we have a choice. So I didn't have a choice. My parents had no money. What little money they had, they weren't sharing with me.
Huh.
My life was going to be laboring away on a job site.
So,
I didn't want that life. I didn't want to drive a piece of crap pickup truck. For me, I wanted air conditioning. I never had a car that had air conditioning. I didn't have apartments that had air conditioning. So it wasn't a choice. Now, if you said to me when I was 19, would you like to go to this house in Silver Lake at Dr. Feigenbaum's house and dig footings out on the front lawn all day for $8 an hour? Or would you like to hang out here and order Grubhub and watch porn on your phone? I'm not leaving.
Right. Well, should parents cut their kids off? I have a neighbor. I won't say who it is, but they have a child. I won't even say the gender. Early 30s. They pay for everything. Early 30s.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why don't you cut them off? And he said, I threatened to cut my child off. And the child said, because he pays for the house, everything, said, I'll just live in my car, which I'm sure he gave the child that too.
That's right.
Yeah. So what is this? What's the solution? Is there a way to show kids?
I think one thing you learn when you have kids, and I think it's true for everyone we know, is everyone is always talking about, these kids need to be exposed to classical music. These inner cities, like they're going to pick up an oboe or something. It's like, it doesn't make it. This exposure, this wisdom we're going to pass along. People are sort of who they are. Like, think about everyone you've ever known in your life. Are they any different than they ever were?
That's
and
right.
we'll include ourselves in this. So what you hope for, there's two things that can motivate a person. It's passion or desperation.
Okay.
I was lucky enough to have both. I had passion. I wanted to do comedy, and I was completely broke and desperate and wanted air conditioning. So that's the ultimate motivators: passion and motivation and desperation. Right? We've removed the desperation element with my kids and many other kids and the guy living up the hill from you. There's no more desperation because everyone has enough. Everyone we know makes a good living, could take care of the kids.
Right.
Kids grow up in 6,000 square feet with 5 AC zones in their house. So desperation removed. Now all we have is passion. Not guaranteed.
Right.
You have to pray that your kids find a passion, because if they have a passion, then that will propel them. When I met Jimmy Kimmel, no one had to tell him to work on comedy. That's where he was going. That's what he was doing.
Right.
He was passionate. And no one had to tell me, oh, come on, take a groundlings class. Oh, come on, go do this thing, do an open mic. You know what? I was compelled to do it.
Yeah.
So in place of desperation is the winter's coming. You better go chop some fucking wood or we're all going to freeze in this cabin.
Right.
That's a motivator.
Yep.
But passion is also a motivator. But a lot of people lack that.
I wonder what percentage of the population has passion. Like 4% of the population is sociopathic.
Right.
That's a statistic, 1 in 25. So I wonder how many people have driving passion to do something.
It's not many.
Yeah.
I mean, percentage wise. It's the scariest thing to me is like when I talk to a young person and I go, what do you want to do? And they go, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I go, well, what do you like? And they go, look, video games and edibles. And I go, no, yeah, but what do you like in terms of a life force? And they go, I don't know. Like I go, oh my God, I feel
Right.
I'd rather talk to a double amputee. I have more empathy for the person that just goes, I don't know.
But maybe we're just getting old and we're out of touch.
Could be.
Yeah. Because
like to-
you
I'd
brought
like
this
to be out of
Yeah,
touch.
you brought this up the other day. You
People
said,
do that shit all the time, and they go, you don't even know how much a gallon of milk costs. And I go, yeah, I know, I'm rich. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. It could be $18, could
Yeah.
be 4 cents. Doesn't make a difference to me.
Yeah.
By the way, you don't want me knowing how much a gallon of milk costs.
Yeah. Do you feel, because you said this yesterday when we were talking, that you're not, people in their 20s don't know you. Does that bother you that you're aging out of a demographic?
You know, it's weird with me because, yes, it does, would be to answer your question, but I've met a lot of people at my live shows where the dad is there with his son, and the dad just happens. Like my son's 26th birthday, and I took him to, or my
Yeah.
son got me onto your podcast or something. So there's some sort of transgenerational pollination going on. That's good. Which I would like, because otherwise your demo just goes to the grave.
Right.
You know.
Right, exactly. So what I wanted to ask before is, are you able to articulate what the skill set and how different it is being the funny guy on the roof, being the funny guy on the radio, and then being the funny guy on stage? Because there's a lot of people that are funny on the radio and they can't do stand-up.
For me, I looked at comedy is like being athletic. You can go, this guy's a great athlete. But then the next question is, what sport do you play? Because golf and tennis are a lot different than football and swimming and baseball, you know. So I was sort of, personally, I was like, you're a good athlete. I'm a good athlete comedically. Good ability.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean you're going to excel at tennis. It means you have to work at tennis. And radio is baseball and stand-up is football. You know, these are different sports and different skill sets, which if you're athletic, you'll have a much better chance of excelling, but it doesn't mean you don't have to do that work.
Right.
So for me, I was like, acting is one thing and stand-up is another and broadcasting's another and sketch and improv. These are all separate things. And you're athletic. You can do them, but doesn't mean you don't have to work at them. And so that's what I did with stand-up.
But how different is, like a topic that you would talk about on your podcast, how do you translate it into stand-up? Does it have to be more concise, less rambling?
More
concise.
Normally, see, I just talk and talk and talk, and I don't really ever stop and go, hey, okay. And I never did. I was just talk and talk and talk. And so at a certain point, I started going, look, if you're just going to talk and talk and talk, and you stumble onto something funny, you should make a note of it, because that could then work in the stand-up arena.
Right.
And I also would pay somebody just listen to all my talking on the podcast and then pull out stuff that you think works, would translate, and because I completely forget about it, and then certain things or sort of ideas, but it's like we were doing the news 2 months ago, and they said, in the news, they're coming out with a Down syndrome Barbie. And I said, just immediately, I go, well, what do they need a Down syndrome Barbie for? Just take a regular Barbie, put it in the microwave. Oh, and I just kind of kept moving.
Yeah.
And then I was like reading Twitter like the next day, and they're like, that Barbie joke was so funny, I had to pull over. I was driving my car, and I was like, oh, well, then I guess I could say I could say that.
You gotta
on stage. So what the process is I was saying my mom, we're talking about the Neptune Society, and my family's in the Neptune Society. And
what is that?
It's low-cost burials. They come get your body for $50, and they just throw you in the ocean.
Yeah.
And I said,
sign me up.
I said, my mom wasn't in the Neptune. She died a year and a half ago or whatever. She donated her body to UCLA. So they could study women who didn't love their sons.
That's great.
I just spat it out. Whatever. I get an email, a week later. My guy who's listening goes, "Hey, that UCLA, that's super funny. It's kind of dark, but it's funny." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I could say that on stage. It'd probably be funny." You know what I mean?
And there's that old vaudeville joke where they'd say, I donated my body to science and science rejected it or something.
Right.
And this is sort of a newer, more personalized truth to it.
Yeah.
By the way, Gary Shandling would have loved that joke.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did not know him, but so for me, it's bloviating and bloviating and bloviating, and somebody with a decent ear picking out pieces and going, you should, mix with, I just started to write jokes. I never thought in terms of jokes.
Are you turning over a lot of material?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I always thought in terms of ideas. Here's my ideas, you know what I mean? But I never thought in terms of jokes.
Okay.
And when I started to try to do stand-up, in a more precise sort of craft-oriented manner, I was like, no stage work, no crowd work, none of that. I never do that, or almost never do it, because I'm good at it, and I won't get anything out of it. Right. That comes easy for me. I've done that my whole life. Where you're from. I used to do stand-up where I just go, we'll just do what can Adam complain about. Just shout out clouds or kittens or
and that's where the coffee bit came
or
from.
Anything. Just shout out anything, and I'll do 10 minutes on it. But then I realized in my sort of second iteration of stand-up, without sounding like a blowhard, that's too easy, and you get no growth out of it. I can do. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to focus on what I can't do or what I don't do, which is write a joke, memorize it, and tell a joke. And don't do any crowd work or improvisation.
How long is your show?
Hour plus or whatever. I mean, I can go and I could however long I want it to be, but it's usually an hour.
And I look at your tour schedule, which is, where is that? Is it on a website? Is it like if people want to see your show?
It's scrawled down on a piece of bark, Orny.
Yeah.
With a charcoal briquette that's in my yard.
Okay, good. Yes, what's your address? Because I'll send people.
You could go to adamcarolla.com if you'd like.
Because I look at your tour schedule, I'm like, I would not want to be doing all these dates. You are out there.
I am trying to get better at stand-up. And I feel good at stand-up now. And I didn't feel good at stand-up, several years ago. So I'm like, this is getting much easier. I'm getting much better. And the audience is enjoying it more. And I'm fine walking out, doing an hour and 10 minutes or whatever. And I want to write down jokes, and I want to tell those jokes.
Right. I think we should sit down and have a beer at some point and just talk comedy and structure and all that stuff. I think that'd be interesting.
I'm good. I think this is enough.
Okay, then we don't have to do that. All right, let me ask you this.
No, we should.
Okay, let me ask you this. You did this at least one time when we're like podcasting. Like, yes, I wanted to tell my restaurant story. You shut me down. You always remind me that I'm not famous.
Busting chops is
really
kind of fun.
Kick down.
Of course, I would never do it if I didn't think you were such an immense talent.
I watched this documentary last night on Vice TV on the shock jocks of the 90s.
Oh,
and
yeah.
where do you fit in there? Because I know you took over for Stern, but this was vicious. This Howard Stern, Mancow, Opie and Anthony, they were fighting. They were going after each other. In fact, Stern went after some guy in Philadelphia that was his competition, ended up like having his ex-wife on and made fun of the guy, and then she ended up committing suicide a month later. It seems vicious. What is that? Now that I'm a radio guy, now that I'm on KFI AM 640, that you can't listen to me in your electric car because there's no radio, what was going on? Where do you fit in that? Because I only think of that because you just insulted me.
I never really was down with the sort of shock jock competition part of the industry. I what I sussed out really early in my radio career is these guys weren't that funny, and I was, and I basically went, these guys are 10% funny and 90% experience. I'm 90% funny and 10% experience. So all I need to do is get my reps, get my 10,000 hours, show up every day, talking to the microphone, make my little notes and doodles and stuff. I don't really need to squabble with people who aren't very funny.
But it's good for ratings. And in fact, podcasters do it now.
Yeah,
there are podcasters.
It was something I was sort of personally uncomfortable with. Like I don't want to have beefs with people.
Right.
I don't get why that would feel comfortable. I wouldn't want a beef with a radio personality anymore than I'd want a beef with my son, or my dad.
I feel the same way.
I don't want this beef. There's people I think are idiots and douchebags, and I would say, the ladies from The View are idiots. You know what I mean? Okay. But I'm not trying to start a personal war or beef or whatever. I was never interested in it, and I was sort of, you could call it being a snob, but I was like, I'm funnier than all these guys, so I don't need to roll around in the mud with them with these weird cooked up stunts or games or beefs, or I just didn't need the sort of morning show theatrics. I just never felt that way. I was like, your job is to be funny and focus on things that you think are funny, not argue with people.
There's a cruelty to it too, a kicking down.
Yeah, there can be. I never got this sort of freak show like, oh, this guy comes in, he stutters, he can barely talk, let's make fun of him. I was just like, I want to have funny conversations with interesting people, and if I do a bit, I want to come up with something that's interesting, and do it. Now you got to kill 4 hours. Look, the problem with morning radio is you have 4 hours to kill, and I didn't play music, so I had 4 hours of talk every single morning. So guys that aren't really good at talking have to have the sidekick that they make fun of because
some guy named Six Pack, or
right,
Hangover,
right. You have Sludge who's going to go down to the coin-op car wash and kick him in the nuts and get a beer koozie and all that. You got 4 hours to kill, 5 days a week, and you're not that funny. What are we going to do here? We have to construct something around you that prevents people from finding out that you're not that funny. That's essentially what it's all there for. It's an apparatus. It's Spanx for people who aren't funny. You know what I mean?
Comedy Spanx. And I was like, I am funny, so I'm not doing any of this. So you didn't fit in.
I understand that I sound like an egotistical douchebag, but I was always of this mind. If you said to me, are you a good carpenter? I would say, yes, I'm a very good carpenter. I was a good carpenter. And then they'd say, are you funny? I'd go, yes, I'm very funny. And they'd go, well, okay, douchebag. And I'd go, it's not that. It's no different than carpentry for me.
It's quantitative for you.
Yeah, don't come to me if you need some help with your computer. And don't come to me if you need some help with your taxes. But if you need some help with a joke, or we got to hang some sheetrock, put down some bass and case, then come to me.
Yeah.
Because I do know about that stuff, and I'm good at it.
But that sort of confidence and arrogance turns off a lot of people. It's something I've experienced.
Yeah. Well, you got to be good.
Are you a good stand-up comedian?
I am a good stand-up comedian now. And I say now, I really mean like in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know
well, if we sat down for that beer, you could be a lot better, but you turn me down.
No,
that beer's off the table now.
We're having that beer.
That beer is off the table. I want to ask you this, because you and I love to complain about little things. This drives me nuts. Should it be, today is trash day for me.
Yes.
I love it. It's on a Wednesday. For a comedian, That's the best. You're usually traveling on a Thursday or Monday. You're flying. It couldn't be better. Should it be illegal to throw out trash in somebody else's trash cans? The minute those guys pick up the trash cans, I'm running out there, pulling them in before people put like dog crap in there, stuff like that.
Just opened my trash can 2 days ago, and there's a bowl of poop in there from some neighbor.
What do you do?
I've gotten this argument many times. I have a nuanced thoughts on the dog poop. And I've really gotten into big arguments with people. I've said, look, I took my dog poop bag.
Yeah.
And I threw it up into this just ivy embankment, just a hill with nothing but ivy on it, like a vacant lot.
Yeah.
And then I was yelled at that I should throw it in somebody's trash can.
Right.
Empty trash can. Like, they just had their trash can empty. Now I'm going to put my dog shit in it, and they're going to wheel it back to the garage and put it there for a week while it bakes out in the sun?
Yeah.
No. So my feeling is this. That trash can is not your trash can.
Okay.
That's his trash can.
I'm with you.
Your dog poop. Now, don't get me wrong. It's better that you bag it, tag it, and throw it in any trash can than whip it around your head like an old-timey slingshot and fire it at a special needs kid.
Okay.
I like the idea that you're lucid enough to bag it and put it in a can, but you really needs to go in your can.
Right.
And it can't go in a can. Look, if I'm walking my dog and I get out the poop bag and I can hear the trash truck coming down the street and there's a neighbor's can that's out there that's full to the top with lawn trimmings or something, I'll throw it in there because I know this truck's going to pick this up in the next 10 minutes. Yeah. You cannot do it in an empty can.
I caught a neighbor's dog walker. They lived 5 doors down, put it in my empty can. I got it on 3 cameras. I took screenshots and I sent it. I sent it to them.
Good.
Never heard back.
People are playing way too fast and loose with society right now. Like you hear people, like politicians. We had a politician, female, I can't remember her name, out here just 3 months ago. Everyone was like, what's going on? Everyone's getting these catalytic converters stolen. It's a big thing. Maybe the cartels are involved with all these kids going out ripping off everyone's catalytic converter. She gives a speech where she's pissed off at Toyota for making it too easy to steal.
Oh, wow.
But by the way, too easy to steal. It's welded into the bottom of the center of the car.
Are they jacking it up? And
you have to jack it up and go under there with a goddamn Sawzall. Or as you know, bayonet saw, reciprocating saw.
Right.
Because Sawzall's a brand name.
But first of all, you got to get the lug nuts off. That's important, too.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
The point is we are blaming Toyota for manufacturing a car that a piece needs to be cut off with a Sawzall. Yeah. With sparks flying out while you're on your back underneath this car. Yeah. That's Toyota's fault?
Right.
We're a completely upside down world.
Yeah.
And we need to reel it the fuck in. That is not your trash can.
Yup.
That is not your parking spot, you know.
But it is my catalytic converter.
It is not your catalytic converter. But my thing is, like, if Toyota chose to just take the catalytic converter and attach it with a piece of Velcro on the hood of the car, you're still stealing. Let's not argue about if it's difficult, if it's hard, if it's easy. That elderly woman shouldn't have been so old. It was so easy to knock her to the ground and take her purse.
Yeah, what I love about you is you have such strong convictions and you have answers for a lot of these questions. Yesterday came up in discussion that, or on your podcast, that you think organ donations, you should, when you sign up to get your license, which they ask you, if you do agree to organ donations, your first ticket, speeding ticket or moving
violation,
would be absolved.
Yeah. Let off.
Yeah. I want to ask you, how would you fix California? And I'll give you something very specific. This is in the LA Times today. An LA hotel became a homeless housing. The city paid $11.5 million to cover the damages. The Mayfair Hotel shut its doors last year. The building had been through a wrenching, tumultuous period. Windows in the 294-room boutique hotel in the Westlake neighborhood had been shattered, bathrooms had been vandalized, and the carpet had been torn up in certain locations. The workers there's doctors, there's nurses, there's security. These people trashed the hotel. And now the hotel has to be closed. How do you fix Los Angeles's homeless problem? I can't figure it out.
Okay. So when I was driving here, I drove down Forest Lawn Drive. It just runs right along the studios and along the cemetery, right? And I think in my first book, in 50 Years We'll All Be Chicks, I noted 14, 15 years ago that as I would go along Forest Lawn Drive, that's the way I went from my home to my studio, that on one side of the road, there were illegals selling flowers. And on the other side of the road...
How do you know they're illegal?
Because they're selling flowers next to Forest Lawn.
Maybe someone does it as a hobby. Maybe they have passion.
Okay.
And would you ever buy flowers that are supposed to be for
Yes.
a dead person for a date? Okay.
Yes. Well, I don't know that they grow them in a specific kind of soil for
but
the
they're
grieving
arranged.
people.
They're arranged for dead people. It's a dead arrangement.
I'm unaware of that.
It's made to look good, not in a vase in a house, but on a tombstone.
It is.
Yeah, I believe so. There's an art to this.
We'll put this one aside. We'll talk about it while we're having that beer.
No beer anymore. Beer's off the table.
Okay.
Yeah, you ruined that.
So I noted in my book that on one side there were folks selling flowers, getting cash, an underground economy. In other words, not claiming it or filing with the IRS or whatever, and undercutting Toluca Lake Florist, who was down the street, who had to pay for their employees and insurance and everything else under the sun. You guys were doing that on one side of the street. On the other side of the street was a motorcycle cop who was backed up into the Jewish cemetery's parking driveway.
Yeah.
Backed up hiding with a radar gun, trying to bust soccer moms who were going too fast on Forest Lawn Drive.
Wow.
And I said, this is an issue because there's illegal activity going on across the street.
Right.
You have no interest in that. You have interest in removing money from law-abiding, tax-paying.
Yeah.
People have checkbooks. The other people are empty bags. You cannot get any money from those people.
Right.
We are in trouble as a city and a state when you divide the populace into people with checking accounts who can pay you and people who are empty bags and decide that the empty bags can just go do whatever they want while we double down on regulation for the people who have the checkbooks. That was 14 years ago. I drove here today. I saw even more, obviously, illegal selling flowers on one side of the street.
I'm not endorsing that,
but as I kept going, I started noticing Winnebagos and campers, and now there's 30-something mobile homes parked with homeless people living in that.
Unhoused,
unsofaed.
We talked about that yesterday in your podcast. Yeah.
Who are living there, right? So let's just use Forest Lawn Drive as a metaphor.
Okay.
I grew up in the city. There was nothing on Forest Lawn Drive except for coffins up the hill.
Yeah.
Now we have illegals selling flowers, undercutting legitimate businesses, and we have this long wagon train of folks living. By the way, this is Toluca Lake. You want to buy a house up the street. Denzel Washington's house is 2 blocks away. It's $9 million. Is
that true?
Yes.
Wow.
So you're living for free. Now, they're still giving out the tickets to anyone who's speeding on Forest Lawn, but the folks, the homeless people, when a fucking deal fentanyl are there and the illegal selling flowers are there, you cannot run a city that way.
Yeah.
You must enforce the law.
2 things. This is going to shock you. Do you know that those vans are rented out to those homeless people? They're called van lords. There are people buying these vans. Some of them don't have motors.
You're saying vans, but you mean mobile homes.
Mobile homes.
Motor homes.
Well, there's no motor in some of them, and they're actually towed there And
Yeah.
they're rented to homeless, unhoused,
Right.
unsofa. Here's the other thing that happened to me, which is I find very similar to the duality or, people have money and the people don't. I was downtown picking up some T-shirts that I had made, merchandise, and I parked in a space where the meter wasn't working. I ran in to get the stuff. I come out, the guy's writing me a ticket.
Yeah.
Okay? Right behind me is a motorhome
Yes.
that's camped out, no ticket.
Right. Can't run a city that way. You cannot have there's always going to be a division between the haves and the have-nots, and you're going to have, outreach programs and stuff like that. Not everyone's a high earner. Not everyone's going to pay tons in taxes and keep the lights on.
Yeah.
But the progressive cities, the cities like Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, have a massive chasm between the haves and the have-nots. And they treat them... You want to walk into the Bevmo and load up a shopping cart of free booze, as you were telling me, and just push it out of the establishment scot-free.
That's what I saw,
Right.
yep.
And then Los Angeles is a place where, and this is 100% true, if you would like to live free in your Winnebago on the streets, no problemo. If you would like to pull a permit to build a deck off the back of your house, big problemo.
Right.
Big problem.
Right.
So which is it? And the answer is it's both, and that chasm is great in Los Angeles. There's a great chasm.
Why is that? Is that because housing is so much more expensive here than other cities?
They've just figured out, look, we could stop illegals who don't have driver's licenses and don't have their car registered and tow them and put them in an impound lot. But that costs money.
Right.
That costs the city money. You don't make money. It costs you money.
Right.
You could round these people up and put them here or arrest them or do it. That's money coming out of the coffers.
Right.
Why not just hit up people who have money and get money coming in?
Right.
And then we'll sort of politicize it. Like, these people need to pay their fair share, and this rich guy and these fat cats or whatever. So that's basically
So
where we're at.
if I'm outraged, is that wrong?
No, everybody in Los Angeles.
But why do they make you feel like it's wrong?
Because Los Angeles is very progressive. Progressive is chick-oriented, and it's emotional-oriented.
That's true,
We just got fucked in the ass with COVID. Completely reamed in the ass with COVID because we have Barbara Ferrer, who's not a doctor, who's steeped in chick think, and the LA City Council, who's just a bunch of fucking yentas, and their approach to COVID was like, shut everything down, everyone just go home.
Mm-hmm. I know how you feel about COVID.
You can't think that way. You have to think about business and commerce and small businesses and what it's going to do to kids to keep them out of school. But it's just, we are chick think.
What is chick think?
Florida's
What is
dude
this?
think.
Oh, okay.
And you don't need to have we had a mayor, Garcetti. He's a dude, thinks like a chick. Is chick think. Chick think is the difference between you and your wife and whether the kid wants a mini bike.
But
and the dude goes, okay, he's gonna learn how to work on it. And the chick goes, that's too dangerous. He shouldn't be doing that. But I don't want him on that. And
these
the guy
are generalizations. Now you get yourself in trouble saying this. You know you're being controversial. What I think is fascinating is you're so smart.
It's true.
What you were saying prior to this makes so much sense, that there's the people that have money, the people don't have money. Mm-hmm. And I just don't want you to taint it with your...
I'm not saying chick think is bad.
Okay, good.
It's good for raising kids. It's not good for policy. It's not good. We need to be compassionate for the unhoused people. That's chick think. What do we get? Shit more load of homeless people. Mm-hmm. It's the compassion. You're blaming Toyota, not the people that are stealing the catalytic converters.
Right.
Chick think. Not good. It's not good for
I think
policy.
there's another way to label it.
Well,
but that's me.
There are plenty. Margaret Thatcher's a chick who thought who her policy was dude think. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not
Can't we say
Gavin
tougher,
Newsom,
more compassionate?
Well, first off,
tougher
not everything's
thing.
a popularity contest. Gavin Newsom is a dude who engages in chick thing. That's what I'm saying. And there's plenty of and then there's
I'm starting to think you're conservative.
Candace Owens is a chick who engages in dude thing.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
So how do we fix the homeless?
Well, you have to have policies that don't incentivize it. So basically what we do in Los Angeles is like we're running a national park. And we go, you know what? Look, here's my policy. We're going to remove all of the lids to the dumpsters, and we're going to fill them with chili every night before we go to bed. And then I raise my hand and goes, we're going to get a bear problem. We're going to have a lot of bears around those dumpsters. And they go, listen, we're not listening to you.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing. And then at some point, they remove the lids, they fill the dumpsters with chili, and then at some point there's a bear problem.
Okay.
And then I raise my hand and go, there's a bear problem we have now. And they go, agreed. And I go, well, look, we got to empty that. Can't put any more chili in there. We got to put lids on top of and we got to lock them. And then someone goes, that would be cruel to bears. I'm a bear advocate. That wouldn't work. And then they go, all right, I'll tell you what. Let's just keep filling the dumpsters with chili, keep the lids removed, and then let's sit down and have endless conversations about what to do with the dumpsters, but never do anything. We'll wring our hands, we'll agree, we'll disagree, we'll have arguments, and we'll never affect anything. That's how LA rolls. That's what happens. And thus the policy is doomed. The policy is shit. The policy is like, oh, let's pull back. Let's get rid of cops on the subways, and we'll have ambassadors. We'll have travel ambassadors. They won't be armed. We'll put a sash on them, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so now someone's getting stabbed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to make things work that can't work. Back to hard work, diet and exercise. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that works.
Does too much compassion ruin a city?
Yes.
Okay.
These people we're showing compassion for the homeless by the way, letting them live in squalor and high on drugs. But it's all done in the name of compassion. And that's why we have what we have.
Let's end on a funny story.
Okay.
In Texas, did you see this story? A hawk drops a snake on a woman.
You can't bring up the biggest state in the union and then go, did you see this story?
Well, I'm just trying to end on a funny note.
On Earth. Do you know this one?
What? Yeah.
No, you got to narrow it down a little more than a state that's the biggest state in the union.
Well, a hawk dropped a snake on a woman.
Now it's getting focused.
Okay.
Yeah.
And both animals attacked her. So what happened was she's in Texas. I don't know if you've been to this place in Texas, but it's near the Mexican, Silsbee, Texas, near the Louisiana border. On July 24th, this woman's out mowing her lawn. A snake falls from the sky, wraps itself around her arm, starts biting her. Okay?
Wow.
Couldn't get any worse, right?
Right.
The hawk comes down to retrieve the snake.
Right.
The talons go into her, starts pecking at her. Could you ever imagine this happening? Like, when I was a kid...
I don't believe this happened.
You don't believe it?
I believe this is an elaborate ruse.
Okay.
To share with her husband to get out of ever mowing the lawn again in her life.
Interesting. You should see her arm.
Self-inflicted.
Look at it. Look at the arm right there. Looks like an alien.
You know what? People, to get out of Vietnam, would shoot themselves in the thigh. You don't think people are capable of this?
Listen,
you don't think people are capable of faking a hawk attack? All I'm saying is this bitch does not want to mow the lawn.
Right.
Her husband says, we got a perfectly good lawnmower, and you're perfectly healthy. Go do the lawn. I'm going to be in here watching SportsCenter and drinking a Coors Light, and she wanted to get out of it. And if someone is attacked by two species of animals...
At the same time...
mowing the lawn, they never have to mow the lawn again.
But don't you think...
There's no spouse that could say...
But they found venom in her. They found the talon mark. What are those things
called? You get
called?
all online.
You get this is all. Listen to the audio. This is Fox News, a local Texas station.
A rare simultaneous snake and hawk attack cutting a Texas woman deep. Are you looking up now?
Listen to her.
I'm constantly looking up.
Her arm now wrapped in healing, but emotionally it's tough.
The nightmares are horrific.
That's just the
terrible.
angle.
That's
This is
what?
the angle. The nightmares.
Yeah.
The nightmares.
Yeah.
You say to the husband, "Hey, the lawn's getting really hot." You'll never be asked to mow the lawn again.
Do you think this is acting then? Listen.
Out in Silsbee, Texas, Peggy Jones had been mowing the
Peggy Jones. Didn't you go to that diner on the way to Texas?
That's right. Vegas.
What was that?
Peggy Sue.
Peggy Jones's? No, it's Peggy Jones. They better have a Peggy Jones's omelet on the Peggy Sue diner.
Yeah, snake and hawk meat.
But you just, every day I find out a new way for me to get injured or die. Listen to her.
lawn.
I was just riding along, minding my own business.
Out of the blue sky, a snake fell onto her arm.
Your instincts are just to sling it off. Then instead of slinging on off, he wrapped around my arm. Just wrapped around, and as I'm slinging, he's striking and striking. He's striking my glasses.
The snake over and over again lunging towards Peggy's face.
And all you could see was this, it looked like a big wide mouth coming at your face.
After 4 tries, a hawk then ripping the snake away.
The hawk, I mean, his wings are just flapping, and, you know, I can feel the wings on me. I don't really know. I can't say I know how it feels to die because I'm still alive, but I really think that I got really close.
She wasn't speaking English.
The
She
husband.
was hysterical.
Peggy's husband, Wendell, also outside, running over to help.
I doubt he ran over. Don't you think this
No.
is a blessing?
Yes.
He was like, I have prayed for a snake to fall from the heavens.
Yeah.
And
It's
take my
so-
wife.
It's so biblical, the serpent
Yeah.
from the heavens.
Do you think he ran over to help, or do you think he was signing up for a dating app?
He ran for cover. Anytime there's a bird of prey anywhere in the vicinity, you're running for shelter.
Even in Shelby, Texas?
Yes.
Shelby, Texas?
The first words I heard was snake fell out of the air. So I'm thinking, yes, you are hysterical.
I told him, I said, a snake just fell out of the air. He said, a snake did this to you. I said, no, it was a snake. And then the snake was trying to bite me on my face.
She was just screaming and crying. And
She didn't want to mow the
trying
lawn.
She didn't want to mow the
It was
lawn.
all an elaborate ruse.
Yeah.
It was all concocted. And she never has to mow the lawn again.
No, she's done, huh?
And by the
But
way,
what's the husband doing while she's mowing the lawn?
that's my point.
Yeah.
He could have been mowing the lawn, but he has assigned it to her. So she wanted to get out of it. Listen, I've done this.
You have.
Yeah.
What have you done?
When I was like in junior high, my dad would go out and wash the car, go out and wash the family car. And I'd be like, it's so hot outside. And he'd, come on, boy, you got to wash that car. And I went out there, and I got about 10 minutes into it. It was hot, and I didn't want to be there. And I just ran into the house, and I just said, a snake landed on me, and a hawk went out of my head. And he'd go, what? And I was, tears, and I punched myself in the face once to, sort of leave a mark. And he couldn't, he took it to the car wash every time. After that, he never asked
So it
me
worked.
again.
So you're saying it worked?
Yes, you can't tell someone who's been attacked by a snake and a hawk to go back out and mow the lawn again. She never has to mow the lawn.
So you're saying
again.
Peggy Jones stole this story from you? You're the originator of the dual species.
I can't say for certain. But probably.
How crazy is it in this world that this is going on? You can't even mow your lawn without...
But I just couldn't understand anything she said.
I said, the hawk came down and he got the snake. He tried to get the snake, and he scratched all over my arms, and his talons were going into my arms, and my arms are tore up.
Can I say this?
Doc.
Yeah,
Let me say this.
yeah. Sum it up for us. You got this. Bring it home.
I am at such a place
Yeah.
with this world where I hear about, some guy was just waiting for the subway and some crazy homeless guy pushed him onto the tracks.
Uh-huh.
Or this elderly man was coming home from the farmer's market and some crazy machete wielding homeless guy just whacked him on the head with the machete and stuff.
Yeah.
That I'm so disgusted with the people put bags of shit in Orny's trash can.
Thank you.
After I'm so disgusted with humanity and this society that when things fall under force majeure, act of God, I'm actually relieved.
You are.
When I hear about a tsunami or forest fire or an earthquake, I go, thank God it wasn't Vladimir Putin in a cluster bomb or, you know, all the unimaginable atrocities that are just going on, human trafficking, and, these kids have been trafficked in from El Salvador and then put in safe houses. Like, I'm so disgusted with the state of humanity that when I hear about an oak tree falling on a family that's picnicking and crushing 3 of them, I go, quaint, good.
It's a relief.
It's a relief to have God-made catastrophes.
And shouldn't all our energy be going into that and not the bullshit that so many of us, including yourself, are very focused on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
What is, and we'll end on this, Adam Carolla is my guest.
You've said that 9 times.
What is the proudest, happiest moment in your career?
Winning the pro division of the Toyota Celebrity Grand Prix.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, just being on the podium and fucking spraying champagne.
That's so cool.
It was the best. I mean, people go, the birth of your twins. But standing on a podium, spraying champagne with a giant-sized bottle of champagne at the audience it's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. Adam Carolla is my guest. You can, you should see his stand-up show. He's great. We do shows here in Los Angeles. You've got shows coming up. I know you're supposed to go to Hawaii. I question whether that happens, but the tour schedule's up on adamcarolla.com. And now the theme, you know, Harlan Williams sings the theme to my podcast.
Wow.
But a group, we're not going to play it this week. A group called The Fold in Chicago covered it. I was going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to play a part of it, and I'll cover it on the next podcast on What's Wrong with Orny Adams 89. Thank you, Adam Carolla. I appreciate it. This is the theme.
Just another rainy day in Chicago, waiting for my funny little friend.
Oh, it's the whole theme, actually.
He's got crazy hair.
You gotta fly.
He's got great big eyes. What's his
you
name?
are. Do you want me to text him and let him?
Adams. Put it together and what do you got?
I thought that went great.